It was just awful, and the place just stank. It smelled like death. And we got down on the river and we knew why. There was just piles of dead freshwater crocodiles just piled up against the rock bar, just rotting. It was an awful scene. These animals live for a long time. They live well in excess of 50 years. It was very, very strange to see so much death.
To get a handle on the scale of the slaughter, Mike first needs to determine how many crocodiles are left. Counting pairs of croc eyes at night is easier.
Sometimes you look down the river and it looks like cat's eyes along the highway, where you just see these red eyes all the way down the waterhole on each side.
Hundreds of crocs once ruled this stretch of river. Now, Mike's flashlight picks out a fraction of that. He estimates the number of dead at over 300.
It was sad because now it was this empty waterhole, an empty highway. And their numbers were down about 75% at that stage. And we were really worried if they had a future here on the river.
Mike needs to discover what's turning these waters into a croc death zone. Freshwater crocodiles are apex predators, controlling numbers of animals below them in the food chain. Only found in northern Australia, they are quite harmless to humans. People here fondly call them freshies.
We went out to Ogden Waterhole and found a family of crocodiles just floating upside down. It was pretty horrendous because they were the freshwater crocodiles and they don't hurt anyone.
It was quite distressing because we really enjoy seeing the freshies in the river. They're just a part of being here, and to see them laid waste like that was just terrible.
Freshwater crocodiles are different. Everyone's got a soft spot for freshies. I developed a love for freshies myself. The lesser known cousin of the salty, but they're a fascinating animal. They're quite beautiful.
These much-loved crocs can grow up to 3 meters long and have slender snouts for catching fish, amphibians, and crustaceans. They are one of the only crocodile species to be able to gallop on land. When threatened, they run at speeds of nearly 20 kilometers an hour. But on the Victoria River, a mystery killer is catching up with them.
At first, we didn't really know what was going on, and we didn't really know why all these dead crocodiles were there. We had some ideas.
One key suspect could be sweeping down the river.
One possibility was that it was some sort of disease that killed them. We didn't really know very much about virus-type diseases or bacterial diseases in wild crocodiles. Certainly there'd been no reports that we were aware of.
Mike does know that fatal diseases sweep through croc farms. Coolibah Crocodile Farm is on the Victoria River. It's run by Bluey Pugh, who has lived in the outback all his life. He raises crocodiles on an industrial scale.
At present, we have about 4,500 crocodiles on the farm at the moment. Majority of them go into Paris, and then they go into the upper end of the fashion leather goods business.
Farming high numbers of crocodiles close together can breed mortal danger.
The biggest killer on the farm here is bacteria and bacterial blooms, because you've got so many crocodiles in such a small area and they're all eating and toileting in the same area. So our biggest thing here is trying to maintain hygiene.
In 2006, a chlamydia outbreak kills 2,000 farmed crocs. The harmful bacterium is transferred through water. Young captive crocodiles suffocate to death as a white discharge blocks their throats. Mike looks for evidence of a similar deadly epidemic in the free-range freshie population. In the dry season, the Victoria River shrinks into a series of water holes. Freshwater crocodiles are forced closer together. But incredibly, freshies still maintain their own territory. Contact is limited.
Certainly microbial diseases occur in farms where crocodiles are kept in very dense, crowded conditions. But as far as we're aware, there wasn't really any evidence that a microbial disease could have caused the death of the crocodiles in the wild.
Raging bacteria is not the killer. A new suspect enters the scene. The world's largest living reptile. And a natural-born killer.
Saltwater crocodiles are beginning to expand their range further upstream into freshwater areas, and they kill freshwater crocodiles.
Saltwater crocodiles are twice the size of freshies. They're fearless and will cannibalize other crocs. Exploding out of an ambush, they drag prey underwater and rip it apart in a death roll. Bluey has first-hand experience.
I was taken by a crocodile a couple of years ago while I was raiding a nest in the wild, and this female came up through the floor and grabbed me across my upper torso here and gave me a good shake, tried to drag me down through the floor again. It seemed to take a long time, but I'm sure it didn't, and after a while she got tired of the whole affair and spat me out. It's not something I'd like to do again.
Mike examines the growing numbers of dead freshies for evidence of battle wounds.
Almost none of the crocodiles that we looked at showed any evidence of having been in fights or having scars or being killed by a bigger crocodile, say like by a salty. We certainly found no evidence that there were salties who were responsible for the deaths of these crocodiles.
Cannibal crocs are off the suspect list. The investigation needs a new lead. In search of clues, Mike carries out postmortems on the bloated corpses.
These crocodiles were so rotten, I'm not even sure if a CSI detective would be able to tease apart what had gone wrong with them. And even just to get into the crocodile, sometimes you've got to pierce it and let all the gas out before you can even look into it.
Picking through the decaying remains, Mike discovers one organ that holds a vital clue.
But one thing that was intact in a lot of the crocodiles was the stomach. It was a tough, elastic sort of organ. And cutting open the stomachs, usually they would have some hair in there, maybe they'd chewed on a bit of kangaroo in the past, or some fish scales. But there's the other thing that we found in them were these little bones, a bit like chicken bones. And we began to look at these little bones more closely, and we found that they were actually a perfect match for the leg bones of toads.
The toads they find in the croc stomachs are no ordinary toads. They are bones and remains from the infamous cane toads. Cane toads were deliberately introduced to Australia from Hawaii in 1935. Biologists believed they would control the spread of cane beetles that were destroying sugar crops. Ian Morris has been following the amphibian invasion.
They bred them and released about 2,500 toads in the fields in Queensland. The whole experiment went bad in about the first week of their release, and the biggest mistake that Australia has made in this whole process was then they walked away from it. So from the 2,500 odd toads they initially released, they have bred into their multi-millions to the point now where here in the Northern Territory they're recognised as our most common vertebrate animal, and they're still breeding, their numbers are still going up. It's enormous, it's scary.
Ironically, cane toads are ineffective at controlling the cane beetle, but they quickly spread out in all directions. They reach Australia's northern tip by the 1990s. Then they swarm west and inland. By 2007, they have made their way up the Victoria River. At the same time, crocs start dying. The mystery deepens. How can the arrival of harmless-looking toads spark the deaths of hundreds of top predators? Ian Morris knows these toads have a lethal weapon.
Now, these cane toads are very toxic. They produce kind of a cocktail of poisons, which they use purely for defence. They're a harmless animal in themselves, but they have these two big parotoid glands on their shoulders, which produce a fair amount of this toxins.
Cane toad's skin oozes venom. 14 chemicals attack a predator's heart and nervous system, causing convulsions and death.
In terms of toxicity, it only takes one toad to kill a large male freshwater crocodile in a relatively short time.
For Mike, this is a breakthrough.
It seemed to be that perhaps the disease that we were seeing going through the crocodile population was in fact cane toads.
All the evidence points to the toxic toads, except for one puzzling fact.
About 30% of the crocodiles we found had nothing in their stomachs at all except rocks, gastroliths. And that was quite confusing.
3 in 10 dead crocs do not have toads in their stomachs. But Morris believes the amphibians are still the culprits.
That crocodile doesn't have to swallow that toad. Crocodiles traditionally mouth things. They'll grab it and they'll chew it about a little bit and throw it around, drop it and pick it up and crunch it a bit more. But in that process, the toad releases the toxins out onto the surface of its skin. That gets onto the membrane in the crocodile's mouth. That seems to be all it takes for a single toad to kill a great big freshwater crocodile.
Freshies have been top predator in northern Australia for over 1 million years. Fine-tuned killers, they are perfectly adapted to hunt and survive in the outback. In just a few years, a small toxic toad has infiltrated the croc's age-old defense system, causing death on an unprecedented scale. Even if the